Howdy. And do you ever beat a game or a game series and think to yourself, yeah, I really want more of that. Yeah, I really want the thing I just played. I would like a lot more of that. Well, that's the feeling I just recently had after I beat the Banner Saga Trilogy. But see, some of you might not know what this series of games is, so I thought it would be fitting for me to give this game series some praise since I really think it deserves it. And also I beat them all and wanted to make a video on it, so here we are and welcome. Great intro, Long Brown Man. You hooked them. Now you just gotta, keep them in with some amazing commentary, bro. Yeah. My dear viewers, I think the best way to go about this would be to go over every game individually from first to last. But see, I can't really do that because there's a catch with these games. The catch is that, well, these games are pretty much the same game, just with a few improvements and such as the games go along. Like literally one game takes place directly after the last one with the same characters, mechanics, story, skill points. The only difference is that when you start a new game, like the continuation, like moving from 1 to 2, it will boost the level of your weenie fry characters that you didn't level up in the last game, so they are viable in the sequel. You don't really want a level 2 that hit the bench right after you got a new ally to still be level 2 when you're about to beat the third game, right? But yeah, I adore the whole idea that it's basically one long, saga. Hit it for the good writing! So this is gonna sound like a review of a single game, but I want to note some differences between the games as well as we go along here. But enough with the preamble. What is the story of the Banner Saga about? I will go over the gameplay after that, but I believe the biggest draw of this game for me is the story and the characters. And I've been excited to write about this game for a while now, so just give me a bone, would you? I'll try to avoid spoilers the best I can, but I might give away a few tiny little things, but nothing major, okay friends? I really want people to go into this game fresh so they can experience all the twists and turns along the way. The Banner Saga games take place in their own unique universe that draws inspiration from Nordic mythology, but don't roll your eyes and exit out of the video because you've heard that 1,000 times. I promise it's way more unique than that. They simply use Nordic mythology as a design template based on like what characters can look like and overall aesthetics, but this world is filled with unique pantheon of gods. Like unique gods, they don't just have Odin and Thor. They're your own unique gods with unique names. But yeah, their world has already been Ragnaroked. Yup, all the gods are dead. And you live in a world that no longer has their favor because they're dead. Which I must say is an amazing idea for a universe. Feels like you're already in the aftermath of the biggest story that could ever take place. But anyways, there are also several different races in the world as well. First off, we have the normie humans who are, wait for it now, humans. Then there are the Varl, or the Jarl. I'm just gonna call them Varl, okay? They're an all-male race who are 3 times bigger than the average humans and have pretty sick horns. Pretty sick horns up there. They can't reproduce because, well, they're all males, but they live so long that none of them have ever died of old age. So they have a finite number since the gods are dead and no more can be made because they were made by one of the gods. And in the second game, we are introduced to the third main race, that being the Horseborn, who are centaurs, but they have a really unique design compared to your average centaur. And the last race is the Dredge. The Dredge are basically your main antagonists of the game. They're basically going throughout the entire world, wiping out villages and slowly making their way just farther along the land, just killing everything in their path. They're basically a stone race that you can't understand their language. They have a really cool design. I like it. It looks suitably Nordic and it really fits the aesthetic it's going for. But the huge inciting incident that starts off the Dredge rampage and everything else in the game's story is that darkness is starting to take over the world after the sun has completely stopped in the sky. Yeah, F that, bro. I'm a night owl. Just Ragnarok me if that's the case, am I right? But anyways, you play as a dude named Rook and you travel all across their entire world to try and solve what the heck the darkness is and why the sun has stopped and why the Dredge are destroying everything and other things. And I can't explain the rest of the stuff because spoilers, but let's just say this story is dope and has a lot of amazing twists and turns as you go, and I adore it immensely. The characters are just as amazing. You will actually hop between several playable characters throughout all the games, but mainly you'll be playing as Rook and Alette. And you recruit tons of more characters as your party grows. That range so different differently in their personalities, and it's basically the biggest draw here. I would love nothing more than to go over every last one of them in detail, but let's just go over some highlights so save some time. One of them being Ivor, who is absolutely my favorite character in all the games, and that's all I'm gonna say. I really want to leave him to be a mystery to you. He's so perfect. His development is amazing. He has some mystery to him. He's the best character in the game. He starts off at the very beginning of the first game, and he is there all the way to the last game. I love him. Some more highlights are Rook and Alette. They are basically hunters from a small town up north where they live with Ivor, and that's at the very beginning of the first game. That's no spoilers or anything. And well, they're basically the leader of the band of people going across the country. There's Avin, who is just the center of the story. Hakan, leader of the Varl. Ludin, prince of the humans. Trigvi, who is he's Trigvi. He's a unique butterfly. Bach, who is married to his spear. Ollie, who is always drunk and very weird. Bolverk, a raging berserking Varl, and tons more. These characters are amazing and are interwoven in the story perfectly and make the whole world come alive. But what is a game without gameplay? Duh. Okay, now the gameplay is split into 3 different sections. First off, we have the most game-filling gameplay, and that being the strategic areas. The strategic sections of the game. That was hard to say. Where you will move your characters on a big board here and attack enemies to kill them, use special abilities, so on and so on. I'm sure you've seen tons of games like this, where you're on a board, characters can move a set amount, you attack enemies, so on and so forth. But the most unique part of this one is that your health and damage are one and the same. It's called strength, and as you take damage, it also lowers the amount of damage you can do, which is kind of realistic if you think about it, because after taking 12 right hooks to the face, I think my retaliation punch will be way less effective than it would before I took the 12 punches to the face. And that is complemented with the armor mechanic, which blocks more strength depending on the more you have. It's a great idea, and it works way better than I initially thought it would. The combat feels great. It isn't too long, so it doesn't get tiresome or something like that, like some XCOM 2 maps, and it keeps it fresh with tons of enemy types, getting even way more enemy types as the games go on. The first game does lack battlefield obstacles and just stuff in your way and, unique battlefields in general, but the latter 2 games completely fixed that, because I think the developers knew that was the biggest issue with the combat, was the boring battlefields. And there are tons of classes as well. Each class has a unique ability they can use by spending willpower, which is basically used to enhance your normal things you do. They allow you to move extra spaces, boost your attack to do more damage, or to use your abilities in general. It's super fun, and I always had a blast with it. No permadeath either, which is something I always expect with these kind of games. That's an amazing addition. I mean, I like Odlif. I don't want to risk losing her. Look at her. But as you fight, characters will level up, allowing you to spend skill points in different trees. And the later 2 games add new things to put your points into to keep it fresh, like adding a title, which is basically a subclass to your already class you have, and adding points into bonus effects and such. But you can only choose a specific one, so you can't just max out everything. There's balance here. And there's also a bunch of smaller mechanics when it comes to the combat, but I don't want to, sit here all day explaining every last little detail, so let's move on, shall we? Just in conclusion, the combat feels amazing. It feels strategic. It feels like you have to think of what your next moves are going to be, but it feels like, it's always surprising. Stuff always comes up. It's really fun. So other than the combat, the other main section of the game is the conversations. This is a game that can weave in so many different directions depending on the decisions you make, and it's pretty scary considering how many choices you can actually make. Almost every character can die if you do not choose your choices carefully, and I really like that. It really feels like I'm forming my own experience compared to someone else's playthrough. Replay value is incredible here, man. There are also so many choices when you're doing the last gameplay section as well, that being travel. These random events will just pop up randomly, and it's your job to solve them, which of course will have major effects. You're going to be going a long way in this game, traveling a long way, so you need supplies, and the amount of people in your group will affect how quickly they eat. Fighters eat more than civilians, and Varl eat more than fighters. But fighters and Varl will actually defend the civilians whenever you get into combat scenarios. And there's also morale, which will affect bonuses you get when you enter combat. And your choices throughout the game will see these numbers change drastically in every which way, as well as named characters' deaths. Any character can basically die at any point if you make a wrong decision, and other huge ramifications from your choices throughout the game. The only downside to this is sometimes the choices felt like a monkey's paw. Like I tried to do the best thing I could possibly think of, and it just kind of screwed me over. Like it felt like the game was out to get me at some points. But the game also tries to keep things fresh as well, with major events happening that require a ton of split breakneck choices, like when you're crossing this huge crevasse. But your travels will also take you to so many sick locations, like shrines to the dead gods, tons of villages and towns. It was always showing me something new, and in between battles you'll you'll also rest at a camp. When you're at a camp, you can rest in your sleeping hut here, which will heal your party, but also cost supplies and spend an extra day. You can also talk to party members in certain areas to get to better know them. But now it's time to discuss some major differences between the games, because I've mainly been talking about it like it's one game. And well, the first game is the weakest, since it has those boring battlefields I mentioned, but also a really stupid war mechanic that the other games dropped completely. The combat felt way more repetitive here as well, because it didn't have as much enemy variety. The second also has a weird mechanic where you can train civilians into fighters, and I only used it once. Again, the third game dropped it. But the third game really went off the deep end with trying to make the game feel very unique. The third game feels like the end game. Like, okay, everything has come to a head and it's time now to end this. It also has far more cutscenes and production value. You can tell that this game obviously had the most budget. But don't just hop into the third game, okay? You can't do that. And also there's a mechanic where the days change from going up to the days counting down, which I don't like that. Please stop. I have anxiety. Enough, please. But yeah, no spoilers, but simply looking at it, you can tell this is definitely the end game, and I love that design choice. If I were to rank the games, I would say the second one is probably my favorite, followed by the third game, and lastly the first game. But honestly, they're all very close. They all feel like one cohesive experience. The third game does change a lot of things, but it changes it for the better, so it fits the end game aesthetic more. And the art. I mean, look at it. This game is so unique and beautiful. It's ignorant, man. It has such a unique design, and it never fails to impress with all these hand-drawn maps, locations, characters, animations, all of it. Holy balls, it's so beautiful. I mean, I can't overstate the art, man. The music fits it perfectly as well. The art is unbelievably incredible, and so is the music. But I've been praising this game for so long, I feel like I have to go over some downsides real fast. First off, some areas really felt like huge difficulty spikes, where you can never rest to heal your party and just fight after fight after fight. It got grueling. Also, a few enemy types felt like they were made just to be annoying, which always sucks. I already mentioned that some choices felt like horse arse, like there's no way to win the situation. And lastly, the game felt like it lacked a proper epilogue. Like after it ended, I wanted to see where every character was after the end of the game, but we don't really get that. I did like the ending. I think the ending was really awesome. I love the way the game ended. Don't get me wrong. I just wanted to know where Bach was, man. How's your wife doing, dude? You still with your wife? But yeah, that's the Banner Saga games. Please don't skip these. They are so good. Like seriously, man. I know I didn't go too in depth with a ton of different things about the games because I don't want to make a video that's any longer than it has to be, but it's just so good. Please play them. Anyways, thanks guys. See ya.